Hello, hello, and welcome to the All In Podcast with Nate Peo. I am your host, Nate Peo. Really exciting episode today. We have Brenden Kumarasamy. He is a guy that coaches you on how to become better at public speaking. Public speaking is one of those skills that really translates to a ton of things, whether you want to get in front of thousands of people on the public stage, or you just want to have a better way to convey your ideas to a couple people sitting across from you from a table. If you want to spend some time developing your public speaking skills, this podcast is for you. Check it out. There's a ton of great advice that relates to that topic as well as personal development. I think you're really going to like it. You're going to get a lot out of it. And it's one of those skills that's, a lot of people avoid, but it pays off big time. So check it out.
Want to go far in business and in life? You can't do it alone. The secret is expanding your network of personal relationships, building friendships, connecting on an intimate level, away from the office, over a coffee or cocktail. Welcome to All In with Nate Peo, the show that asks what happens when you go all in and leverage the power of your network of personal relationships.
Hey, welcome to the All In Podcast. I'm Nate Peo. Today, my guest is Brenden Kumarasamy. He is a speaking coach, which apparently I need a speaking coach because I'm just mumble mouthing my words. But he's got a show called MasterTalk on YouTube. And the way I met Brenden, a little backstory, we're all part of this mastermind group on Facebook called Unconventional Leaders. It's put together by Heather Paraday. Which kind of an interesting story how I found her, but that's for another time. So I get in this group and people are like, hey, I want y'all to connect with each other. And so you post on and say, like, I'm going to connect. And I was a little bit nervous kind of getting in this group at first and like connecting with people because a lot of times you get on Facebook groups and they're very spammy. It's like, hey, you want to join my MLM or you want to buy essential oils from me, or like, have you ever thought about being a Bitcoin trader? And you're just like, oh man, I've heard this all. So I like post and they're like, hey, I'm open to connect. And Brendan's like, let's get on a call. And I'm like, let's just slow down a little bit. Like, I'm not quite sure I'm ready for that level of engagement. So we ended up conversing back and forth on Messenger for a bit. And then like over time, I've seen him post, I've seen his videos, and we chatted online and stuff like that. So the cool thing about this group is it's not any of those things. It's not spammy. And Brendan's definitely not spammy. So it was just kind of like, you have these thoughts in your head or these preconceived notions that people are just going to kind of bombard you with work at home sales pitches. And it's totally not that at all. And now that I've gotten to know Brenden, I was like, hey, we got to get you on the show. I got to hear what you're about. So welcome to the show, Brenden.
Thanks, Nate. That was probably the best introduction. And I'm definitely not a Bitcoin trader. But yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit, what is MasterTalk?
Yeah, for sure. So MasterTalk is a YouTube channel that I started a while back to help the world master the art of public speaking. And the main reason I started it was because a lot of speech coaches before me did not share a lot of the free content that they teach their clients. So let's say, for example, you're someone who's a student, or you're someone who's the CEO of a nonprofit, or someone who just can't afford speaking services. You don't have those tools or those free resources like you do in the business world on YouTube to work on yourself and to work on your own communication without affording or needing to purchase the services of a speech coach. So MasterTalk was made with the intention of helping the world master public speaking so that these types of tools and information is more accessible to everyone.
Very cool. How did you, when did you start this? And what was kind of like the pivotal moment when you're like, hey, I want to get into this? Because I think most people would say public speaking it's scary, it's frightening. And to say you know what, that's what I want to do for a career. That's not an everyday path people take. So what made you want to go into that niche?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the best way of answering this is the theme that's always been consistent in my life is this idea of injustice. So whenever I see an injustice in society that I think it can fix, I always go after it. So when I was a kid growing up, right, I was growing up in an impoverished household, and my only goal in life was to get out of poverty because I felt it was unfair for the parents who gave me that opportunity. So I worked really hard to get the 6-figure corporate job that I always wanted, studied hard, communicated better, did all the presentations, went to business school, and then I got the job, right? And then after that, after I'd fixed my own problem, I kind of asked myself, how can I use the gifts and the talents that I've gathered over the years to help other people, right? And during those 3 years that I did business competition, so that you can think of it like a sports for nerds. So instead of practicing with your coach to get into the NFL or the NBA and getting screamed at 3 times a week or 5 times a week, we would do the exact same thing with presentations. So people would literally fly out from countries around the world, like Thailand, for example, or Singapore, all the way to Canada or the States just to give PowerPoint presentations. It was this insane thing. Completely insane. And then in that journey, as I was doing all these presentations, a lot of people were asking me, Brenden, how did you learn how to speak? And I just went, I don't know. I kind of just figured it out. They were like, did you watch videos on YouTube? And that's when I started to realize, as I started watching those videos myself, that all of the videos weren't really good. It was advice like, hey, Nate, you should be confident. You should get up on stage. You should not be afraid. This is not advice. It's just general motivational stuff. So I just did something about it. And that's when the idea
That's great. And I like the idea that you're giving away a lot of the content for free. And I think a lot of people, when they're doing this stuff and they're a coach and they say, I don't want to give my good stuff away for free because why would people want to use that? And I think that's a bad take to have. One, because first off, ideas are one thing. Execution is where it's really at. And most people have ideas and they're not going to execute on it. So first off, most people aren't going to take your ideas and run with them and steal them and use them as their own. Two, a lot of times, I've done this before where I've signed up for the paid version of something, and you get there and you're like, really, I'm paying for this? This is all free information I could have found with Google search. It's not any better. It's just kind of a waste. So I'm like, that's not helping. And then as a coach, you're at some point, you're there to show people the fundamentals. You're teaching them that stuff. But the real thing a coach is going to do is it's going to take what's already within inside of you and pull it out. It's going to say, hey, I can, if you're telling me hey, I can tell you tips and stuff in a video to make you a better speaker, and I can watch that and I can implement them. I might learn hey, don't say ums, uhs, buts, whatever, stutter, stammer. But it's really going to be working with you one-on-one where you're going to pull it out of me and work with me to be better. So even though you're giving away the free stuff, I still think you're creating a connection with people that says, hey, this guy's got some good stuff. He's telling me tips and advice, but I know I can't get I can't be my best version of this public speaker I want to be if I don't engage somebody to coach me through it, work with me on a one-on-one basis, and probably encourage me to do more things. I've been in Toastmasters before. Did you do Toastmasters?
I'm a guest speaker for a lot of the chapters, but I'm not really, I didn't really do the program though.
Yeah. The one thing I got out of it is it's a very structured format of you have to get up and you have to speak. The whole meeting set up where you have to, if you're announcing something, you have to give an introduction. So you're constantly reinforcing this practice of speaking. And then there's a constant of, then somebody evaluates what you said. So there's this constant, I'm getting up in front of people, I'm getting feedback, getting in front of people, getting feedback. And I think getting better at public speaking takes time because you have to do it a lot. And most people don't realize what a lot is.
That's true. Very true.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So what's kind of your backstory? You said you were doing these competitions in business. How did you, where did you go to school and where did you grow up? And what led you down this path?
Yeah, for sure. So I was born in Montreal. So it's this French English city in Canada, up north in Canada. And yeah, so the reason why I went to business school and I did all the competitions, all this stuff, was because most people who go through these intense, crazy NFL-esque programs, they do it to get a job in a field called consulting. So
Hmm.
basically what happens is like a lot of companies, like you take, I don't know, Fortune 500 companies like IBM, General Electric, all these big companies, they hire consultants to help them kind of understand their business better and solve their problems. And that was something I always wanted to do. It's just a very competitive industry. So the only real way to differentiate yourself, especially at a very young age, to get a job in one of these fields is to compete ruthlessly in these competitions. So
Hmm.
that's the main reason I started doing them. And one thing led to another and I ended up being a YouTuber, which is interesting.
So how has YouTube, one, how long have you been a YouTuber? And two, like how have you grown your YouTube network using essentially building networks, building connections, and building personal relationships? How have you established a YouTube channel along those lines?
Absolutely. So I started YouTube around 18 months ago. And at the beginning, just so, so it doesn't dissuade your audience from starting a channel, I had no idea what I was doing. Like absolutely none. Like I literally started filming my videos like in my basement right in front of the room that I'm literally sitting in. And for the first 50 videos I did, actually the first 20, 25 videos, I just used my phone. So I took it out and then I just went, hey guys, I'm Brenden. This is MasterTalk. And one thing kind of evolves into the other. So I would say if somebody wants to start a YouTube channel, the biggest thing they need to keep in mind is consistency is everything, right?
Hmm.
You want to do once a week consistently over and over again. And the mission is always more important than the actual hard work that you're putting in. So in the sense that if you don't have a clear vision for your channel, you don't have no clear reason on why you want to do that, you're going to give up very quickly on posting every week. And that's what happens with most YouTube channels and podcasts as well.
Hmm.
To your question about interpersonal relationships, so I was lucky in the fact that because I built a very good reputation for myself in business school, I had a lot of supporters for Master Talk right from the get-go because everyone understood the value of communication. Everyone understood that this information wasn't available anywhere else on the platform. So I jumped from 0 to 1,000 subscribers in maybe 90 days, but I hustled for it. Like it wasn't like, hey guys, I have this YouTube channel. Can you subscribe? No, I was DMing every single one of my 1,500 friends on Facebook for a week, one-on-one. And I was like, I did all this for you. Could you please hit this button? Right. But the second part of it is more important. Like, how do I grow this beyond that first 1,000? And the way that I do it is I actually attend 10 to 15 personal development conferences. And that's how actually I met Heather, by the way, the founder of
Hmm.
Unconventionally. So I met her in person at one of these events. So I go to all these events because I ask myself the question, and this is something you can think about, whether it's your business or anyone's watching business, is whenever you have a crazy idea, the vast majority of humans are always going to think you're crazy, but there's going to be a small percentage of people, whether it's 5, 10%, or 2%, that are really going to be raving for what you have to offer. So what you
Hmm.
need to think about is who are those 2%? And how do we get to them as quickly as possible to get the yeses starting rolling? And for me, those people were anyone in Toastmasters. So I just go to all the clubs, promote my videos, or people who want to develop themselves. So I go to personal development conferences and I promote my YouTube channel.
Very cool. I think when I give advice to people of like how can you make yourself irreplaceable to the company you work for or the services you provide, I always say there's two things you really have to focus on. One is experience, and I mean by experience is your education, your life experiences, the experience you have with being a master of the tasks that you do, um, and building a network. And both of those things take time. You can't develop those overnight. You can't develop experience overnight, educate. Like these are like lessons learned, hard knocks of life. They take time to develop. And personal relationships take time to develop. You have to consistently go out, make friends with people. You have to make touches consistently, not let those relationships you make go cold. You have to keep them fresh, keep them warm, and constantly be meeting people. And those take time. But the other one, and it's been more recently that I've discovered it, is the power of being a good uh, public speaker. Not just like, why do I need to know public speaking? Do I want to get up in front of large audiences and give speeches? Most people are going to say, no, I don't want to do that. But
Mm,
what you don't realize is when you are advancing your business or your career, you're going to get to a point where it becomes less about punching numbers into a spreadsheet and doing like task related productivity to conveying messages, conveying ideas, and getting people bought in on what you're doing. Sales, talking about a product or an idea, pitching a product. Everybody's like, well, I'm not in sales, but everybody's in sales at some point. You're either promoting yourself, you're promoting your ideas, you're promoting your business, you're promoting your career, or you are in sales. And when you go, hey, if I can become a better public speaker, I can present in front of 3 or 4 people on my team a bit better. I can convey my message better. I can learn how to really connect with people that they build and buy trust in. And I think that's like, those are like all 3 of those skills. Like nobody can take that away from you. Like somebody else, they could get a robot to punch numbers in a keyboard. They could get somebody to make auto dials and stuff like that, or artificial intelligence will come in and replace your job. But those 3 key things, they can't be replaced. And so whether where you're at now finds it valuable or not, that somebody else will pay you for that experience and that knowledge. So I think what you're doing is it's a huge asset that people should develop. But I think a lot of people avoid it, just like they avoid networking and meeting people.
Yeah, man.
What's your thoughts on that?
And I completely agree with all that you said. You know, because I give a lot of career advice too. And what I always tell people is the best way you need to think about your career is you need to make sure that you're surrounded by the right people who want to promote you and grow you. Because at the end of the day, since a lot of the company environment is very politics based, regardless of your skill, you need to make sure that you have not just mentors, but sponsors. So there's a big difference in it too, because a mentor is someone you look up to that gives you advice, but a sponsor is someone who vouches for you, says, Nate, this is the guy that you want to keep in your company, right? And that is more valuable than any skill you could potentially have. So what I recommend people to do is the second you walk into a company, or even better, before you even take a job, and you have like 3-4 offers on the table, since the economy is doing so well right now, you need to look at those offers and say the following question, which not many people think about, is who looks like me and acts like me and has the same personality as me and is in a position in the company where I want to be in. At the end of the day, if you join a company and nobody looks like you and is in a director position, I say don't take the job. Because I'd say, why take the risk? You'll never get there, or it'll be much more difficult for you to climb the ladder. For example, what I tell a lot of women that I coach is I say, look, women empowerment is awesome, but focus on the companies who are actually doing it and not just marketing it. So let's say a company like a Deloitte or like a big professional services firm, they say women empowerment is important, but they don't have any directors who are women. Don't work for them, right? So it's the same thing. That would be, it's just to build on what you were saying.
Yeah, that's terrific advice. And I never really heard the sponsor analogy before, although I've experienced it. Like in my career, I could probably point to people as I was growing up that actually vouched for me. And sometimes there are people I directly worked for, and there are just people I worked with. And they're the people that says, hey, this is somebody going places. This is somebody that's you want to latch on to. And that's been beneficial to me. And then on the flip side, like as I've progressed in my career, you have to start looking down and you want to see who are the people that you can sponsor, who are the people you can latch onto. So a lot of times I've met people that at some point, at some level, I'm like, I don't really have a need for them in my organization right now, or I'm not going to buy something from right now, but this person's like got something nobody else does. Like I want to be a part of that. I want to surround myself with that. I want to introduce them to people that can take them places. So, you know, you want to reach up and you want to reach down, and you want to have a bit of both. You want somebody pulling you up with them, and you want to reach back and pull others up at the same time. So I got a question for you, and now I'm drawing a blank on what it was. Oh, I remember now. Where's Brenden going to be in 3 to 5 years? What's your goal? Like, where do you want to take this?
Yeah. So my ultimate goal with MasterTalk is to be the #1 YouTube channel on the platform. So that's being the reason is because, not because for some ego reason that I want to be #1 or anything, but it's more just, it's a symbol to dictate or to demonstrate that now this information is accessible to everybody. So now the information's out there. You need to take action, because at that level, in 3 to 5 years, there's a very good chance that I'm going to price myself out of the market for most people. It's just the nature of having a big brand. So my goal is really to be the number one YouTuber on the platform, and ultimately in the next 5 to 10 years, be the number one speaking coach in the world. So that's the ambition.
Those are big ambitions. And I like the idea of being the number one on YouTube, because so many times the people that need your services, whether it's what you're offering or a coach, is they can't afford it. And people say, well,
Exactly.
max out your credit cards or do these things. Like, if it's a priority, you'll find a way. And you say, maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you can't afford it, or maybe it's not the right thing. But so now you don't have access to these things. So it's like, hey, here's some building blocks. Watch these videos. These videos are for free, and you learn the steps, and then you progress and you build this rapport, and you say, okay, well, I want to work with Brenden. I can't do it yet, but I'm going to learn the steps. I'm going to build up. I'm going to make a little bit more money, a little bit more money. I'm going to get to a point where, hey, I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to invest in the education. I can't do it today, but maybe I can do it in a year, 2 years. So that's why I think it's really cool that you're doing that. And people are going to stand behind you. They're going to relate to you. They're going to want to get to know you. And I think that's absolutely fantastic.
Right.
So everybody's always told, when you go on stage, do something to make you feel more comfortable. A lot of times it's like, imagine the audience naked. What do you think about, or what would you tell people to think about with they're getting on stage to not be nervous?
For sure. So there's many different little nooks and crannies that we can talk about, but I'll touch on 2 specifically. The number one thing that I coach everyone on is what I call the PSW, which is your public speaking why. And the reason why you need to find a reason for mastering communication is for the following. Let's say me and you are running a marathon, right? So me and Nate are running a marathon, and we got a marathon in 6 months. We got to practice for it. So let's say it's a 40-mile race or something. If we have practice next week and I'm not in the mood and I don't want to go, but Nate knocks on my door at 5 a.m. He says, we're going for a run, I'm going to go for that run. Because every single week, as we're increasing the number of miles that we're racing, so let's say 1 week we do 5 miles, next week we do 10, I can clearly see the progression towards the end goal. Me and him giving each other a high five, getting the gold medal, participation medal, whatever you want to call it, for passing the 40-mile race and completing the race. So in that way, the marathon is a very tangible goal that we're achieving together. But in public speaking, the challenge is that goalpost doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. What does being a good speaker even mean? Does it mean being good at silences? Does it mean having good ums and ahs? There's actually no answer to the question, because there's no right answer. And because of how vague it is, nobody really wants to practice. Nobody really wants to put in the effort to master presentations. We don't wake up one morning and say, hey, Nate, you want to get some lunch and then give a presentation? Nobody does that, right? So in that same way, the first thing that you need to get coached on to make yourself more comfortable with stage presence or communication, or really anything public speaking related, is figure out why you want to master communication. And that reason needs to be so strong so that it doesn't matter how uncomfortable you get on stage. It doesn't matter how many mistakes you make, because I make a ton of them even today, and everyone does, by the way, that you just keep pushing forward. So that'll be the first thing. But more on the tactical advice, I would say to practice long stares and pauses. So what I tell a lot of my clients is, if you can stare at someone for an uncomfortably long period of time and still not make it awkward, it's your confidence as a speaker will skyrocket. And the fun fact is that the best speakers in the world can pause for an indefinite period of time, like so. Mm-hmm. And not make it look awkward. Obviously, we won't do this in this example. You get the idea.
Yeah, I think people want to fill the voids. Like when it's quiet, you're sitting there going, and I've been doing it even as we've been podcasting. I'm like, I gotta say something. Like it's just natural. You want to blurt in, but I think patience and slowing it down and just kind of breathing and being relaxed helps you to do that. So I really think you've given just a ton of like great advice. Usually I try to end it with like, what's the one piece of advice you would recommend with people? But I think you've shared it. I think you've told a lot of great tips and stuff. So I hate to think that you're holding back on the last one, but I'll give you the opportunity if there's any advice you'd recommend for somebody getting started.
Yep. So what I would say to people, and this is whether you're starting a public speaker or anything in life, especially if you're impact driven, which I'm sure is most of the people who are watching this right now, is understand the alternative. So that means a lot of people, whenever they lack motivation in something, whenever they don't want to do something, the first thing that comes to mind is like, I'm too tired. I'm going to start this podcast next week. I'm going to do this next week. And the thing that always gets me to wake up and to keep working hard is to understand not the people I'm helping, but the people I'm hurting by not doing anything. Mm-hmm. What is the consequence of your inaction, right? I could have started MasterTalk after I became an executive at IBM, and I still work there, right? Mm-hmm. Or as a 23-year-old who has no PhD in communication, who has barely any experience, to say, hey, there are millions of people right now that are not benefiting from communication information, whether they're a 7-year-old student who's trying to raise $100 for charity, or whether they're the CEO of that same charity that can't afford me. I need to make a decision. And the second I made that decision, I didn't care if I was 13 years old. I didn't care if I was 35 years old. I was going to be the #1 speaking coach that can help the world master communication. Once you make that choice, you never go back. So understand the alternative.
That's some great advice. So people want to follow you. People want to find you. People want to learn from you. Where can they find you?
And thank you for asking that. And I'm very accessible, so feel free to message me on Instagram directly. I'm at Master Your Talk. And if you're in the mood to improve your public speaking skills and take your game to the next level, you can also check out my YouTube channel, which is Master Talk in one word.
That's great. So for you folks listening, go over there. Let's make Brenden the #1 speaker. Let's help him on his way. Like his YouTube channel, like his Instagram page, to just follow along and engage in those comments, engage in a discussion with him, because I think we learn when we discuss, and it's important to not just, consume information, but also interact with it. So if you like what you're seeing, you like what you're hearing, give him a like, give him a comment, send him a DM, and see where it goes. So thank you, Brenden, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. You've had a lot of wonderful, amazing things to share. Great advice. And I think the world is going to be better off that you're helping it out.
Thank you, Nate. I appreciate the kind words, man. Cheers.
All right. Take care.
Make sure to visit our website, therealnatepeo.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, so you'll never miss an episode of All In. While you're at it, if you found value, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if simply tell 2 friends about the show. Looking to connect? You can find Nate Peo on LinkedIn or Instagram.